Hello everybody, Floppy Waffles 69 here, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are going to be doing a full deep dive analysis of an oldie but still a goodie. This is the Tier 10 steel ship that is a, I guess, heavy super cruiser, battle cruiser-ish. This is the Stalingrad, guys. A ship that literally everyone should know of, unless you're absolutely living under a rock, and what the ship is capable of doing, guys. This ship was entered into the game, I want to say like 6-7 years ago, could be rummy, 5-6 years ago, and it really defined and created its own meta when this ship came to the game. This ship was the end-all be-all cruiser, and it really dominated most of the competitive scene and or the random battle scene as well. This ship was literal god tier. But over the years, new ships getting introduced into the game, new gimmicks being introduced, a commander system rework, different things have changed, and this ship has felt the brunt of that now for quite some time. And this ship isn't quite the beast that it used to be, which I guess in turn is a good thing because this ship was ridiculously overpowered way back in the day and incredibly strong. So it has definitely been reined in, so to speak, and brought back to, I guess, a tolerable level. Let's put it like that. But there is a problem with this. Because the Stalingrad was reined in, and it's no longer the beast that it once was, Wargaming decided to introduce a new kind of beast to the game in the form of a Tier 10 Soviet heavy cruiser in the tech tree known as the Petropavlovsk. Guys, this is going to be a very, very easy review whether or not if I think this thing is worth it, because the Petropavlovsk does exist. And I can't sit here and say, hey guys, especially back in the day, it used to be 28,000 steel. Now it's 31,000 steel ever since they like hard flatlined the resource amounts given on the tier. They want to soak you from 31 or soak you of 31,000 steel in order to pick up the Stalingrad when you literally could grind for free just by playing the game, the Petropavlovsk, and have a ship that's arguably better in almost every way possible. Okay? And that is how I feel about this ship, which really sucks because I want to sit here, I want to say, guys, 100% get the Stalingrad. And I think she's quite good. I don't want you to be perceived like I think this ship is trash. I don't think it's trashed. Trash at all, actually. The guns are incredibly cracked. The guns are very good. The hull is very, very tanky if you're nose in or slightly angled. But it burns and floods like a battleship because it's listed into that super heavy cruiser, battle cruiser-ish kind of style with like the A gear, like the Alaska, that kind of stuff. So it definitely feels the brunt of that. And given when you're 14.2 max stealth builds of detection, you are shot at by everyone and everything, right? But with all that being said, this ship is still really, really good. And I do think you should acquire this ship down the road to add it to your collection. But do I think it should be your first steel ship like it was mine? Probably not nowadays, guys. I think there are better steel options for you that not only are going to be more fun and unique, but also strong and competitive and more interesting to play than that of the Stalingrad. Also because you can get the Petropavlovsk in the tech tree for free, and you could get the Moskva for coal. Those are two ships that play similarly to the Stalingrad. I just can't sit here and recommend this ship for you guys. But with all that out of the way, we're just going to review this ship, talk a little bit about her, so that if you do have this ship and you are struggling with her in nowadays meta, or if you are saying, fuck you, Floppy, I'm still going to grab this ship, I'm still going to pick it up because this is a blast of a ship, that's all right. That's why I'm making this little review here for you guys. So you can reference this and see if the tips and tricks that I recommend can help you get better results out of your Stalingrad, okay? So without further ado, let's get on into it by looking at the armor layout. Now, what you're first going to see with the armor layout of the Stalingrad, it is quite impressive. You do have a 25mm nose, which is overmatchable by 380mm guns and higher, but you do have this 50mm icebreaker, which means the closer you get, the more likely you are to hit that portion than you are the upper portion of your nose. Again, this can still be pinpointed and shot at, so keep that in mind as well. You do have a massive ass that is 25mm in length, but you do have a deck that is 50mm millimeters, which is awesome for ricocheting plunging fire from large caliber AP and shattering a lot of HE in this game. You do have an armor belt of 50 millimeters as well. Sorry, upper armor belt of 50 millimeters and a lower armor belt of 180 millimeters. Go ahead and strip away those armor layers. You can see that you do have a above water citadel for sure, and it's external citadel, so keep that in mind too, that your citadel is exposed, meaning that this right here is your citadel armor. So all you have to do is penetrate this armor right here, and they will go ahead and citadel you. Now, the last thing I want to point out is indeed your citadel. As you can see from the nose, it is kind of like it has like Yamato-esque style of citadel, where it has like those cheeks, right? Whereas not as prominent as out of the Yamato, these can actually get the ship citadel if you penetrate it at a certain degree of angle. This has happened to me, though it is fairly rare. But you can go ahead and penetrate there if you go ahead and penetrate this 50 millimeters of effective armor, which is going to go ahead and punch through this 140 millimeters of armor, which is again in total about 190 millimeters of armor flat. If you have large caliber armor piercing or high penetrating capabilities, you can do this. It is plausible, but again, rare. I find this, especially where this ship is playing, very rare to suffer from these kind of cheek citadels, so to speak of. Moving into the survivability of 72,450 HP, and you have a torpedo belt reduction of 25%. Now, again, this is on the higher end. I think you're in the top 3 ships, maybe number 1. I think number 1 of HP for a tier 10 cruiser. And you're going to need all that because your ship is spotted from the moon. So every battleship in their mind is just going to try to point and click you. Now, again, your armor can stand up a lot against these shells, but they're going to be slowly chunking you down. And God forbid they get your broadside, that is easily to citadel this thing. Okay? Moving into the artillery, guys, and this is the main reason you're going to pick up the Stalingrad. These are cracked 3x3 305 millimeter guns with my particular build reloading in 18.5 seconds. You go ahead and have a maximum range of 20.4 kilometers. Again, the 180 degree turn time on these guns is 34.5. So again, you're gonna have to pre-plan your turret movements and your ship to make sure that your turrets can go ahead and track enemy targets. Again, not a brawling ship by any means. You're going to want to position accordingly. Positioning is probably the #1 important thing when it comes to playing the Stalingrad, guys. And you're going to see examples of that in the gameplay I'm going to showcase to you. Touching on the high explosive shells, 4,500 damage with 33% fire chance that penetrate 51 millimeters of armor. Again, I find myself very rarely utilizing the HE because the AP mixed with the penetration, mixed with the shell velocity is just so freaking good. You're really not going to want to be shooting HE a whole hell of a lot. The armor piercing of this of the Stalingrad is indeed a different story at 9660 with again initial velocity timing that of the HE at timing that of the HE at 950 meters a second. The AP is freaking phenomenal. It is why you will utilize why you would want to get the Stalingrad. It does have a little bit improved ricochet angles at 55 to 60 degrees. It has a minimum AP threshold of 34 millimeters of armor, and it has a kind of an improved fuse time at 0.022 seconds, which is super nice. Again, the penetration is insane. If we go out and reach to our maximum range of 20 kilometers, we're still penetrating 430 millimeters of armor, which is more than enough to go ahead and citadel even battleships, which is crazy, but especially those cruisers at long ranges. One thing to keep in mind, though, is when we're comparing it to the Petro is really only falling behind by like 30 millimeters of effective penetration at its maximum range. And then around the lines of getting in super close, we're talking sub 10 kilometers. It is only about 30 again, 40 again millimeters less than that of the Stalingrad with the penetration capabilities. But you're not waiting 18.5 seconds to reload like the Stalingrad, right? Which again, making the Petropavlovsk a little bit better and arguably has a better hull entirely. It's sleeker, it's smaller, harder to hit citadel. The ship is quite punishing for a lot of other ships. Everyone should know the Petropavlovsk and what that ship is capable of doing now, especially if you're in a battleship. I've never seen battleships angle so aggressively to another cruiser in this game like they do have to the Petropavlovsk, and they should still be doing that to the Stalingrad, as both these ships are notorious for absolutely swacking enemy battleships and or cruisers, right? Going into the secondary mounts, again, not many of them 6x2 130s. They will help you with the occasional fire here or there or defending against an enemy destroyer. Maybe they need one more PP touch, and these things can do that, and they oblige for you. They do have a maximum range of 8 kilometers, raking in damage about 1800 damage with a chance to cause fire about 8%. One potential build on the Stalingrad is actually take that range mod in the slot 6, but again, for me, for what I want to do, for where I'm playing, I do find myself not needing to take that. I think 20.4 kilometers is more than adequate amount of range in order to get the most out of the Stalingrad. AA defense for the Stalingrad is actually quite potent with a continuous damage rating of 355. Again, you have your 3 different sections, your short range, your medium range, and your long range. Your long range is going up to 6.6 kilometers. Your medium range is 3.5, and your short range is around 3.1. Again, flak count of 6 plus 2, and the amount of flak damage you're doing with the sector, and all that stuff, and your defensive AA fire consumable that you have to utilize on the Stalingrad. You can't opt out for the hydroacoustic search. This ship can by all means defend itself from a strike. Again, you're going to find yourself dealing with pesky little aircraft carriers here and there and hybrid ships. This ship will definitely flatten a whole strike from a tier 8 carrier and greatly reduce a strike from a tier 10 carrier. Potentially nuking the entire tier 10 carrier squadron is still, it depends on like the armament type. They're coming at you with either attack aircraft, dive bombers, torpedo bombers, that kind of stuff. It depends. And with the consumables and the captain skills that the CV is taking and how skilled they are, again, all they have to really do is dodge your flak. But if they're eating your flak and are forced to eat your flak, though, the planes will be flying out of the sky at a very expedited rate. Okay, a big balancing feature to the Stalingrad is its maneuverability, and look at that turning circle radius, guys. 1,130 meters is quite insane with a rudder shift time of 12.2. Keep in mind, guys, that this ship, for the most part, doesn't have a third turret. You're basically going to be utilizing the front 2 turrets for, I would say, 80% of the battle, maybe even 90%. But again, if you can opt to get that third turret operational, it will greatly increase the likelihood of you scoring those massive damaging salvos and or citadels, and I can definitely bear witness to that. That is very, very true. But you have to be careful. If you're showing that third turret, chances are enemy ships can punish you in return if they land just right. One thing that's not really well known about the Stalingrad is its speed. 36.8 knots. I believe this is with the Sierra Mike flag on. It is. This ship is fast as fuck, guys. When shooting at the ship at long range, you're going to want to make sure you lead around 15 clicks if possible. This ship can absolutely hum on the water, but again, a downside is it's quite large. So it's not easy to miss, or sorry, it's not hard to miss. But again, if you underlead it, you're not going to be landing where you want to be landing to Citadel this ship. And again, the concealment, guys. Base detection on the ship is 17.5 kilometers. Again, with the build that I'm running, we get it down to 14.2. You're still going to be seeing, this is a Russian trait, especially with their larger cruisers like the Moskva and the Stalingrad. You're going to be seen. It's going to happen, but they don't give a fuck. Okay, that's kind of the motto of the Russians. So just keep that in mind. Bow tanking is going to be your greatest friend, utilizing island coverage and minimizing the amount of targets that can shoot you at once. That is a huge tip I can give you with the Stalingrad that's allowed me to elevate my Stalingrad's game. Okay. Moving into the, I guess, module upgrades for the Stalingrad. Everything you see here is what I highly recommend you take. Yes, even your eyes do not deceive you. That is the damage control party modification 1. Giving you a longer immunity time that you have from getting relit on flooding and fires, because you are a target. You're going to be shot at a lot. You're going to take damage, okay? Again, surveillance radar modification, making sure we get an extra 20% out of our consumable action time. Aiming systems, pretty self-explanatory. You have no torpedoes. You are solely relying on your guns. Make sure your salvos count. Again, for me, this is a no-brainer. People are going to argue that propulsion mod is the way to go. I disagree. Again, you're so large, you're not going to be dodging shells. You're most likely going to just have to endure. And I guess minus 15% for both extinguishing time and recovery time for flooding is no-brainer to me. Concealment modification, I would highly recommend this still, getting it down to 14 kilometers. If you don't think that's the way to do it, then maybe torpedo lookout system or ship consumables I could see are both viable options as well. For me, I found more success using the concealment systems modification 1 to help get it down to 14.2 rather than 15 point whatever the fuck it's going to be. okay? And then lastly, the main battery mod 3 to reduce my reload thus even further by 12%. I have been seeing some people make guides about gunfire control systems mod 2 to have that unbelievable god tier dispersion at maximum ranges. I have seen this as a build. It is viable for me. I think the reload with 20.4 kilometers already max range is way more important than getting further range out of your Stalingrad. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to keep in mind is the dispersion of the guns, okay? This is a very unique dispersion on the Stalingrad. I believe it does get, is it cruiser level dispersion or is it battlecruiser levels of dispersion? I don't really know. Just know that this ship is notoriously accurate for what it can do. And I think that if we look at various other ships and compare them to it, yeah, it is battle cruiser levels of dispersion, by the way, which again is going to translate to a lot of consistent shell hits. Again, you will get those wonky shells every now and then, but more consistently, you're going to be getting those more consistent salvos and good tight groupings, which is going to allow you to snipe enemy citadels at max range and really make sure you land most of your shells on target. I mean, that coupled with your shell velocity of this ship, you really shouldn't be missing too many of your shots, okay? But anyways, guys, that is basically the Stalingrad in a nutshell here and from the port analysis. Let's go ahead and check her out in battle and talk a little bit more about her. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So I'll be honest, guys, trying to get some really good footage to show you guys was a bit of a struggle. And it was kind of an eye-opener for me about the Stalingrad. And, you know, I don't want to say how far she's fallen, but I guess the more accurate term would be how well she's been balanced and kind of range checked into the game since her initial release. It's probably a little bit more of an accurate statement to make with the Stalingrad. It took me around 4 to 5 games to get a really good game to showcase for you guys. And other games I did have, we ended up losing just because the team either destroyers went in and died within the first 5 minutes, or all of our battleships played back at the AB line, which again is an absolute tragedy, especially when you're trying to fulfill the battleship role for your team on the Stalingrad. But yes, there are some times that you're going to have to carry some extra baggage and really do a hard lifting for your team, so your back is going to be a little bit sore after the game. But nonetheless, going into the Stalingrad and going, I guess, more along the lines of the gameplay of the Stalingrad, what do you need to know about the Stalingrad? Well, this ship excels at medium to longer range, is actually more so at the longer range, especially with nowadays. And I never thought I'd have to say that in a cruiser, but it is the case. This ship, if you get within, I want to say 15 kilometers and you try to go in towards the capture point and try to play up close and support your destroyers, you will actually be dead or first blooded pretty reliably. This ship does not do well under a sustained amount of damage because it can take floods and fires for over a minute. There's really nothing we can take, which is going to get me down to my first point. A lot of these battle cruisers, or all these battle cruisers, you know, heavy cruisers, whatever you want to call them, guys, they really get rain checked by that, I guess, countermeasure, which is they take floods and fires for over, 60 seconds or whatever, like battleships, which kind of sucks. And they can't take or slot fire prevention like battleships can. So they are a cross between cruisers and battleships, but they can't get the defensive capabilities of battleships. I really am a little bit frustrated with this. I kind of wish Wargaming would do something in regards of all the skills we have now in the cruiser tech tree, which is what these ships share, because they are still labeled as cruisers in game. I do kind of wish they would go back and maybe change one of the tier 3 or tier 4 captain skills that really no one utilizes and allow us to add a little bit more defense to our games. I don't know if there really isn't anything that offers that now in regards to floods and fires, so it would be super nice if Wargaming did that. But right now, in time of making this video and this guide, they don't have that, so we're going to have to bear with it and have to play our ship a little bit more passively, which is, again, where this ship is excelling at, or at least how I find this ship to excel at. Again, this is pertaining towards random battles. Again, in co-op, operations, PvE, or ranked, I'm sure it's a little bit different, but again, that's just me, and this is how I found a lot of success in my Stalingrad. Okay, number 2, and I already mentioned this in the port screen a little bit too, I almost play this ship exclusively as like it doesn't have HE as an option of an ammunition type to be slotted. The armor piercing just feels so good, and when you slot the commander skill that I have, which is like I think it's the heavy AP skill, it really elevates this ship to another notch in regards of the damage it can do with that armor piercing. So I highly recommend you try out that build, or the build that I've shown here before the game started, because the build works incredibly well. Again, all we can optimize is our offensive potential with the Stalingrad. There is nothing we can slot in forms of the commander that's going to offer us greater survivability. Survivability expert's kind of a joke. I really wouldn't pick that as a skill. And again, I'm not really going to pick other various skills, like not dazzle. I can't remember the name of the skill, what it is, but there's another skill that doesn't really, it kind of tries to offer more of a defensive ability, and it really doesn't do it. So again, what I have listed is what I highly recommend. Okay. Obviously, I am running, I believe, Nikolai Kuznetsov on this ship. No, I'm marking like a unique commander, but not a legendary commander. This is a prime candidate for a Petropavlovsk commander. If you want to flip your Petropavlovsk commander to and from the Stalingrad, it's going to work perfectly. And that also goes along with the Moskva. The Moskva does an excellent job as well. And definitely stay tuned to the channel, because I'm going to try to start making a lot of reviews on coal ships that potentially a lot of people are gathering resources for or from Christmas, or at least the Christmas event. So I want to make sure I'm covering a lot of these ships that I'm sure have been covered over and over and over again, but giving you maybe a different perspective or a look at these ships is always a good idea to do, and kind of revisit the ships and see how they are stacking up in the meta nowadays, right? But yeah, guys, basically that's the Stalingrad. Like it's you are very opportunistic with your shots. You want to shoot ships that are broadside by all means, and hopefully slap them and hopefully get citadels, but slap them for massive amounts of damage with your 305mm guns. These are the original railguns in the game. Some would argue the Zhao has them, but this puts a whole different level of railguns compared to that of like the Zhao. But the Petropavlovsk understands just a little bit of what I'm talking about. But that's my thing too, is like, how can I sit here and recommend a Stalingrad that is really reined in by all these things when the Petropavlovsk exists, that doesn't have any of these weaknesses, realistically speaking, right? And the guns are almost or equivalently almost as cracked. And again, that's not even factoring in the ledge mod Petropavlovsk, right? That decreases your dispersion values even more so. So it's all these things that I'm trying to process when telling you about what the ship does well, and whether or not I recommend it or not. It's like you have to look at it from a more of a 360-degree view rather than just, head on and straight on. Like, there's definitely a outside the box view that is I highly recommend looking at this ship too. And again, if you reference other YouTubers' older videos, they're going to say this thing is cracked, they're going to say this thing is broken, blah blah. It is no longer the case, guys, and I cannot stress that enough. This ship is good. It still will remain good because its guns are phenomenal. But because it's reined in so much with being that heavy cruiser, super cruiser, battle cruiser-ish kind of ship with all those disadvantages, that is where this ship gets balanced, okay? Do I think the ship needs a buff? No. I don't think the ship needs a buff. I think what needs to happen is, like I already previously stated, I think the commander skill for cruisers kind of needs to be reworked. I think there's a lot of commander skills that are either just too situational or just not allowing it to, not enough variety. I think there's too many cookie cutter builds that are the same. And this goes for a lot of the classes, but none so more than the cruiser. The cruiser is supposed to be that ultimate support vessel, kind of, different nations, cruisers have different play styles and they vary. And like, to me, it doesn't really help the cruiser at all, right? They're more or less the punching bag of the game at the moment in the current meta, and I really can vouch for that, because holy fuck, I think I've been in, when I was trying to make this video, I think I tried 4 to 6 battles, and I think at least 2/3 of those battles, maybe probably 4 out of the 6 battles I played in, were 5 to 6 battleship games with only 1 or 2 cruisers, and more or less aircraft carriers, right? So we remained spotted the entire game. Every battleship in their mind are shooting at us, and I think I had one game where the Christopher Colombo just kept chunking me for 10 to 15,000 damage, because I can't dodge, I can't do anything, I can't fall off detection. All I can do is nose in and pray that his dispersion is shit, and he's not hitting my softer membranes of my vessel, right? But anyways, I digress from that. Going back to the Stalingrad and what makes her really, really good, guys, are those 305mm guns, and especially the armor piercing. I mean, you're seeing this, right? You're seeing I'm pinpointing where I want my shells to go via the superstructure, via the hull, via certain aspects of the ship or very specific parts of the ship. This ship can do that with its main battery. It can really pinpoint those specific areas. And again, once you have the right commander skills, as you see here, one of my commander skills is proc, boosting my reload even further. It's going to allow this ship to elevate its offensive potentials by a little bit more, right? And that's what this ship does. All you can slot and all you can boost is its offensive potential with the commander build, right? And I have to keep chunking this Valparaiso that's immediately hitting its F key every 10 seconds in order to chain heals off and stuff, because he's in the Satsuma's secondary battery. Oh, he's within the Valparaiso's secondary battery range, which is our Satsuma, right? Another thing to keep in mind about the Stalingrad that I've noticed, and why a lot of people misplay her, is because this ship has radar. I do not utilize the Stalingrad's radar as an offensive radar. And what do I mean by offensive radar? Well, there's a lot of other ships like the Petro, the Nevsky, that could theoretically get in there closer and utilize that radar to support the destroyers. I utilize this radar as more of a denial for enemy DDs to pushing up. If DDs overextend into my radar range, if they're trying to flank, that sort of stuff, that is when I utilize the Stalingrad's radar, because your detection is 14.2. And I mean, yes, I know this game, or this map, the new map that is, has a lot of fucking islands, but there is no way in hell I could have pushed up, given the fact of what we're enduring right now, to an island where my radar coverage could have been useful. There's just no point in doing that, right? So the one thing I can really stress to you is you have to read the mini-map and understand what map you're on, what flank you're on, and know, hey, when can I push up and have my radar in range of the capture point, or when I should just use it to protect against myself and my allies from enemy destroyers going on flanks, right? This ship, in my opinion, is definitely best played on a flank. I don't think it should be played in the middle of the map because its detection is too high, and if you go in the middle of the map with no island coverage, you're just going to have battleships from front, center, right, left, whatever, just absolutely keep shooting at you until you're whittled down to nothing, and then you're going to keep getting set on fire, and it's ever spiraling out of control until you're dead. You really have to use caution with the Stalingrad, okay, in regards to positioning. I cannot stress that enough. Positioning is of the utmost importance when playing the Stalingrad, okay? Let the broadsides come to you. Don't go out trying to look for them. They will expose themselves inevitably, even if you're on a flank. And I know a lot of these other community contributors, a lot of these other YouTubers say, hey, go to the middle of the map. You're more inclined to have broadsides with ships going to the flanks. And this is true, but there are certain maps that you can get away with this on, and other maps you really can't. And this is one of those maps based upon my spawn, my detection, the enemy lineup, the enemy's pushing abilities. There was no way in hell I could have gotten to the middle of the map without being focused down to at least half or less HP, right? So I had to make a conscious decision, and I did. I made a conscious decision, and so far it's been boding well for me as our team kind of mopped up the other flank, and we're kind of enduring this push by the Valparaiso, okay? Which, again, if you need any confirmation on how cracked that ship is, hopefully this video and gameplay of that guy is enough to showcase what that ship is capable of doing. I do have an older video on my channel talking about how disgusting that ship is, and I really do hope from a game, I guess, balancing standpoint that Wargaming, once we are entering the new year, really reins that ship in, okay? My final thoughts on the Stalingrad, guys, is it is a very good ship. I think the ship is awesome, and I do think it is worth picking up down the road. But as of right now, I can't recommend this ship because the Petropavlovsk is just better than it. Better stealth, better hull, better armor. Guns are just equally as cracked. It just is all in all a better ship. Now, again, when the Petropavlovsk is having to angle to battleships coming in from the middle and showing some sort of broadside to me, yeah, of course I'm going to bend the Petropavlovsk over and do good damage. Obviously, once I rein in my my reticle here. But this is not a good engagement to judge the Petro versus Stalin. If we were bow on at each other, that is what you need to see, because I'm telling you the Petro will win that for the vast majority of the times. Probably 9 times out of 10, the Petro is going to be winning these engagements. But at these long-range engagements, when the Petro's accuracy is really reduced based on its gimmick, this is when the Stalingrad excels. So that's why I'm saying longer ranges for the Stalingrad is definitely better than trying to play it up close and personal, which the Petro is just completely opposite of that. The Petro really wants to get in and close, support, and really dish out the pain, especially to those radar cruisers like the Des Moines, the Minotaurs, the Wustas, like those sort of ships, right? That's when the Petropavlovsk is really going to be strong. And again, if battleships think they're going to push you, well, they got another thing coming. So, as you can see, we're at 272,000 damage, and that's pretty much where it's going to stop for. I think we get one more salvo on the Riga before our team finishes it off. But basically, guys, this is a great ship. It should not be your first steel ship unless you're a diehard Soviet fan in this game and you love your Moskva, Petro, Nevsky, all those ships. You're like, fuck it, I want to get another one of those. Then yeah, I understand it. I think there are better ships that are more unique experiences for you to pick up in the steel store, other than the other 3 that I've already covered, which is the Aki, Hawaii, and the Bremen that are already in the game for just 31,000 dubs. Steel, which your coupons can work on. Just my advice to you is make sure that you obviously watch this video, watch other people's review and takes of recent Stalingrad gameplay before you go ahead and make this decision. But again, I do think down the road you should pick up this ship, just not right now. I think there's just better options for you to pick up, guys, right? And that's coming from a cruiser main who absolutely adores cruisers. I think there are probably some better cruisers to pick up that have a little bit more game impact and are a little easier to play in the current meta, guys. I will leave you on the post-battle screen here. This was indeed an E-rank game, so a great game to showcase on what the capabilities of the Stalingrad is and are. But like I said, I'll leave you on the post-battle screen. I will catch you all in the next video. Thanks for watching so much. Super grateful for all of you, and I will catch you all in the next one. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out, guys.